Hello and welcome to my new video. In this video, we are going to learn how to build this travel website with animation step by step using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. So first, when I refresh this page, you can see this nice preloader, and after 2 seconds it vanishes. Then now we have access to our home page. So we have this navigation at the top here where we have the logo, then some menu and a sign up button. Now in the middle we have some content where we say get ready for lifetime journey and the button get started. Then we have this carousel also here. We can move to the next slide, and the slides we have videos and images. So if you move, we have an image. When you move, we have a video of the sea, and we have this navigation arrows here. You can use this to go to the next slide. We can also go to the next slide, or we can go to the previous slide. Then below that we have our about section where we have this nice animation. This content moves from the left and this image also moves from the right. We also have some slider here, so we can go to the next slide, or we can use these arrows here to go to the previous slide and the next slide. Now after that we have this service section where we have an image here and then some content, how to spend a weekend, and some paragraph describing what you must do, and we have 15 days store, then a button here, the rating and the price. After that we have this discount section where we say get 15% off on tour next travel. Then we have this button here. Also we have this play button. When we click, we have this video in the background, so when we play we can see that the video is being played. Then when we pause, the video is paused. When we play again, the video plays. After that we have this trip section where we have plan your trip with us, then some description. Then we have this nice slider here where we can drag and move to the next slide, or we can drag and move to the previous slide. We can also use these arrows here to move to. So if you use this arrow, we can go to the next slide. When we use this arrow here, we can go to the previous slide. After that we have here, we have the pagination. So when we move, you can see that it moves accordingly. Then we have this button here which says explore all. After that we have this more section where we have the more places to travel to. Then we have this nice grid, then visit to Bali, then visit to Russia and their prices, explore more tours now, and we have an image here. After that we have this newsletter section where we have this content moving from the left and the input moving from the right. After that we have the contact section where we have the contact us and some description here. Then we have the places that you want to visit. The place here is Manchester, which is UK. This is a place I would like to visit one day in my life. Then here we have the footer, which is the last thing. Also when we click on home, we move to the home page. Let's refresh again. So here we have our preloader again. Then wait for it. Now we have our home page. When we click on about, we move to the about, and we have this nice animation. When we click on service, we have the service, and we have still this nice animation. Let's click on trips. We still have this nice animation. Then contact, you see that it's slicing with this nice animation. Now another important part of this website is it is fully responsive. So when I go to the responsive mode, let's click this and let's close this. Let's refresh the page and wait for our preloader. Then after it loads, now you have our logo and our hamburger. When I click on this hamburger icon here, we have the home. So when I click on about, it takes us to the about. Now let's scroll and see the animations. Also the slider here, we can still move and go back. Then we have this image here. Then we have our content here. When I click on, let's say service, it takes us to the service page. When I click on, let's say trips, it takes us to the trips page where we have this arrows here to move to the next slide, or we can use our own hand to move to the next slide and move to the previous slide. Now when I scroll down, we have this more section which with this nice grid effect here. When I scroll down, we have this nice animation also. Then we have the newsletter section where we have subscribed to our newsletter, then the input. Then we have the contact us section where we have this map here which is Manchester. Then we have the footer. Now let's go back again. So when I click this and go home, then you will see this nice animation here. Let's refresh again and we have our preloader. So guys, this is the website you're going to build in this tutorial, and without wasting my time, let's get into the video. Alright, so the first thing you're going to do is to set up the project in 3 simple steps. So the first step is to go to your browser and search for WP Codevo, which is my website, and from here we are going to download the setup files. So this is the post, which is a responsive travel website with HTML and CSS. but in the future you might not see this post here. So in order to have access to the post, go to categories, then from here scroll down and look for HTML and CSS. So click on this. Then here we have the post, so click on it, then scroll down. So here we have the features of the travel website. I'm going to include some responsive navigation, some carousel, then some newsletters and things. Then we have also resources for the website. Here we have Google Fonts, Swiper.js, CDN.js, box icons, then scroll review and so on. So first let's download the setup files. So click on this, then wait for it. I already have it downloaded, so I'm not going to download it again. So you can click download and wait for it to download. So let's go to my desktop. I have it downloaded here. So what I'm going to do is to extract it. So let me extract it here. Then let me open this, and here you can have access to all the files. We have the styles, so we have the CSS folder which contains our styles. Then we also have the images folder which contains the images and the videos I'm going to include. So here you can find all the images and the videos. So let me go back and open the JS folder. Also we have the index JS and the slider JS. So this is for the slider and this is for the basic JavaScript I'm going to write. Then here we have our index.html and some readme here. So let me open the project with VS Code. You can use any text editor of your choice, but in my case I'm going to use VS Code. So wait for it to load properly. Let me close this. Then here are the setup files. So the second step is to include all the libraries and fonts you are going to need in this website. So let's start with our favicon. So first let's go to our favicon here. So enter into our images folder, then look for favicon.icon. So let's save this. Then let's say box icon, then slider. So let's change this to swiper.js. You can leave it as it is, but I've changed mine to swiper.js. So let's go to my browser. So I'm going to my browser, then let me look for box icons. Then here let's click on usage and go to import CSS, then copy this, go back to your text editor and paste it here. So I'm going to replace this with the link we copied. Then let's see, the next one is swiper.js. So close this, and here you can click on swiper.js to go to their documentation, but I'm not going to use this for now. We are going to get all the CDNs from cdnjs.com. So let's click on cdn.js, then from here search for swiper. So swiper, then the first link, and from here we have various scripts here and links. So what we are going to need is the swiperbundle.me.js and also the corresponding CSS, which is swiperbundle.me.css. So let's copy these two. So scroll up and copy this one also. Then go back to your text editor and look for swiper. So swiper, here we have the href here. Let's paste the CSS here. Then let's go to the script and look for swiper. So swiper is here, and let's paste the JS also here. Now the next thing is to include our scroll review script. So let's go to our browser again and search for scroll review. Then let's copy the scrollreview.min.js. So copy this, then go back to your text editor and look for scroll review comment, then paste the scroll review here. Then let's include our custom style sheet and scripts. So here let's enter into our CSS folder and look for styles.css. Then for the script, let's go into our JS folder, then look for our slider.js. Then the next one is index.js. Into our JS folder, let's look for index.js. So we have the libraries included. Now the next thing is to include our font. So let's open styles.css, then go back to our browser. Let's close this for now. Then from our website you can click on Google Fonts to open fonts.google.com. Then in this project I'm going to use Montserrat. So let's search for Montserrat, then click this and look for the 300, 400. Let's look for 500. Then we need also 600. Then the last one is 700. We're going to use the import. So click this, copy this except the styles element, then let's close this for now. Then go to our text editor and paste it below the font comment. So let's paste it here. Then let's start with some basic browser reset code. So let's first select our universal selector, then let's look for it before and after. So it's before, so the before, let's look for it before. So before, what am I even writing? Before. Then here let's set margin to 0, then padding, let's set padding to 0 also. Then let's set box sizing to inherit. So let's say inherit, and here from here also you see the root selector. You can see we have our colors here, then some box shadow and some transitions. So let's scroll down and let's select our body. Before that, let's select our HTML and let's give it font size of, let's say 62. So the root font size, let's give it 62.5%. then let's also set box sizing to border box. Then let's also give it scroll behavior of smooth. Now let's select our body, so our body, so body, and let's give it font size of, so let's start with the font family first. So font family, let's set font family to Montserrat. I can't even spell Montserrat, so let's just copy from here, Montserrat, then paste it here, Montserrat, then comma sans serif. And the next thing is to set the font size to 1.6. Also let's set font weight to 400, so 400, and let's give the body background color of white, so var. Then we need our white color from our color variables. Then let's give the text color of, so text color, let's give text color of our text one color. Now let's select all our links. So let's start with this and let's give them text decoration of none. Then let's select all our allies also. Then let's give them list style of none. Now let's select our h1, h2, so h1, h2, h3, then h4. And let's give them color of test1, which is our test1 color. Now let's select the paragraphs. So let's say color, so let's say var, then we want test, so test1. Then let's select our images and videos, so videos. Then let's give them width of 100% and height of also 100%. So we are done with the basic browser reset. Now let's start with our custom classes. So we are going to first create a class of dflex, which is our flex container. Let's give it display of flex and align items of center, so center. Then let's create our container class, so container. Then here we are going to set max width to not 1000 pixels, so 114 rem. Then let's give it margin 0 top and bottom, then left and right should be auto. Then let's start with our section class, and here let's give it margin of, let's say 5 rem, then 0, and padding should be, let's say 10 rem, then let's say 0, then 5 rem. So this is top should be 10 rem, then left and right should be 0, then bottom should be 5 rem. Now let's set overflow to hidden. So let's now create our title class, so title. Then here let's give it margin bottom of, let's say 2 rem. Then the h1 in the title, let's say h1, so the h1 in the title, let's give it font size of 4 rem, so 4 rem. Then let's write some media query for the container in the title and section. So here's some short media. So media, and here we want max width. Then we want 1200 pixels. And here let's select our container class, not content, container. Then let's give it padding of, let's say 0, then 3 rem. Then let's copy this, then paste it here and close it. Then let's change the value to 567. So 567, and let's select our title. Then we want the H1 in it. Let's give it font size of 3 rem. Then let's select our section, so the section class, and let's give it margin of 5 rem. It seems here we have section 5 rem, so let's leave the margin out. Then the padding is what we want to change. So let's say padding, we want 5 rem, then 0 0. Now let's open the project with live server. So here is the empty project. Let's go back to our text editor and let's start with our header. So here we are going to leave a comment of header. Let's save this. Alright, so let's start with the header tag. Let's give it a class of header and an ID of header. Then within the header, we are going to have our navigation. So navigation. Then below the navigation comment, let's start with our navigation. So let's start with a div with a class of navigation. Within this, let's have our nav. And let's give the nav a class of nav and another class of dflex, which is our flex container. Then within the nav, let's have our logo. So this is our logo, and within the logo we are going to have a link, and this link should point to the index.html. Then within this link, let's have our image, which is our logo. So let's enter into our images folder and let's look for, let's say, logo.png. Let's save this. Then below the logo, we are going to have our nav list. So we are going to start with a URL with a class of nav list, and let's also give it a secondary class of dflex. So dflex. Then within the nav list, we are going to have our nav items. So here we are going to start with li with a class of nav item. Then within this nav item, we are going to have our links. So we are going to start with our link tag with a class of nav dash link. Then let's copy this down maybe 4 times. Then the first one, let's give it, let's say, header. Then the text should be home. Then here also let's say about. Then the text should be about. Here also let's say service. So service. Then the text should be service with caps. So service. Is that the spelling? Service. Then here let's have our trips. So trips, I'm going to say trips. Here also with the text should be trips. And here let's have the last one is contact. So here we are going to say contact. So let's save this. Then below the URL, we are going to have our sign up button. So below the URL, let's have our sign up button. So yes to nothing. Then here we are going to say sign up. And let's also give it some class. So let's say class btn, then sign up. So sign up. Then below the sign up button, we are going to have our hamburger. So let's start with a div with a class of hamburger. So hamburger. Then here we are going to have our icon. So we start with bx. Let me show you how you can get this icon. So go to your browser and from our website, go to box icons. Then here search for menu. Then this is a menu alt dash left. So this is a icon you're going to include. Click on font from here, then click on the icon and it will be copied. Now go back to your text editor and paste it within the hamburger. So let's paste it here. Save this, go to your browser, let's close this, and here we have our links and the sign up button, then the hamburger. So let's go back to our text editor, then go to styles.css and write some styles for the navigation. So the first thing we're going to do is to select our header, so header class, and let's give it position of relative, then width should be 100%, width should be 100%, then let's give it main height of, let's say, 100 vh. Let's also set z index to, let's say, 0. Let's give it a background color because our links are white, so here let's give it a background color of our test1 color so that we can see the links and the logo. Then let's select our navigation class, then let's give it position of absolute, position, so position of absolute. Why is this not working? The autocomplete. Then let's give it top of, let's say, 0, then left should be 0, then let's say width should be 100%, then z index, so let's set z index. It seems you have made some mistakes somewhere, or because the autocomplete is not working. They've highlighted the code here. So z index should be 9999999. Then let's give it padding of 1 rem, then 0. Let's save this, go back to our browser, and we have this. So let's go back to, so first let's select our nav, then let's give it max width of 996 pixels, then margin should be 0, then auto, and let's give it padding of 0, then 2 rem, then justify content should be space between. Let's save this, and let's select our logo image. Let's give it width of 7 rem, so 7 rem, then height of 7 rem also. Let's go back to our browser, and now we have our logo, our links, then our sign up button also. Then let's now select our nav item, so nav item, and we don't want the last child, so not last child. Let's give it margin right of, let's say, 0.5 rem. Then let's select all our links, so nav link, let's give them display inline block, then padding of 1 rem, then color should be our white color, so far white. Then let's go back to our browser, and we have our links. So now the styling for the sign up button, so let's go to our text editor again, then let's select our btn class, so btn, then let's give it display inline block, then color should be white, then let's give it some font size of, let's say, 0.6 rem, then font weight should be 500. Let's also set background color to the primary color, so background color should be our primary color, which is the yellow color. Then padding, let's give it some padding, so padding, let's give it 1.5 rem, then 2.5 rem. Let's also give it some transition, so transition should be our transition, so let's choose the transition 300. Then when we hover over the button, let's copy this class. When we hover over this button, let's say hover, then let's give it border color of, let's say, Let's give it var our primary color. Then box shadow, box shadow, box shadow. Let's give it our box shadow, which is the 500. Then let's also give it transform, translate y. So translate y of -3 pixels. Then when the button is active, that's when we click on the button, so active, let's set this transform translate y to 0. So here should be 0. Now let's select our sign up button. So when btn has a class of button, that's sign up, that's for the home section. So here btn, when btn has the class of sign up, we want padding to be different, so the padding should be different. Let's give it padding of, let's say 1 rem, then 2 rem. Let's give it border radius of, let's say 0.5 rem. Then background color should be transparent. Let's also set border to 1 pixels, then solid, some white color. And let's give it transition of, here we set the general transition, so let's remove the transition from there. Then when we hover over the sign up button, so when we hover, let's set the background color to this color. So background color should be this color. So let's copy this color, then paste it here. And we also want the border color to be primary, so let's paste it here. All right, now the next thing is to start with our hamburger. So let's select our hamburger class, so hamburger. Then let's give it display of none, but for now let's comment it out. Then let's give it font size of 3 rem. Then color should be white, so white color. Also let's give it cursor of pointer, cursor of pointer. Let's go back to our browser, and we have our button, then our hamburger. Now let's set it to display none. So here, display none. Then when navigation has the class of, so when navigation has a class of fixed, we want to give it position of fixed, and background color should be var test1, so test1. Now let's write some media query for the navigation. So media, and we want max width to be 768 pixels. Then we are going to start with our btn sign up. We are going to give it display of none, so display of none. Now let's select our nav list, so nav dash list, and let's give it position of fixed. Then top should be 0, then left should be, let's give it 100%. But before that, go to your text editor, not text editor, go to your index.html and look for nav list and give it a class of open, so a class of open. Then go back to styles.css and give it width of 0, let's also give it height of 100%, then max width of 80%. Also let's set padding to, let's say 3 rem, then 0. Then let's give it background color of white, so let's say white. Then let's give it flex direction of, so flex direction of color. Then let's set align items to flex start, so flex start. Then the last one is, not last one, box shadow, Let's give some box shadow of, let's say, the 300, or transition box shadow, the 300. And let's give it some transition also. So transition, we want also the transition 500, so 500. Now when nav list has the class of, before that, let's go to our browser and let's resize this to this, and you can see our hamburger is having display of now, so you can't see it for now, and our nav list also has been shifted to this side. So let's go to our text editor. Then when nav list has a class of open, we want to give it left of 0 and width of 100%. When we go back, we'll see the nav list. Now we can see our nav list. So let's go to our text editor and select our nav items. So nav list, we want our nav item. Let's give it margin of 0, 0, then 1 rem. Then let's select our nav links. So nav list, we want our nav link. Then let's give it font size of 2 rem. So 2 rem. Then let's set padding to 1 rem. Also, let's give it color of var text 1. Then let's give it font width of 500. Now let's select our hamburger, so hamburger, and give it display of flex in order to show it. Then our logo, let's select our image from the logo, then give it width. Let's reduce the width to 5 rem. Then the height should also be 5 rem. Now let's go back to our browser, and we have our nav list, then the nav links also, and our hamburger. So let's go back to our text editor and let's remove this class and add the class with JavaScript. So go to our JS folder, look for index.js. Then let's select our, so first let's leave a comment here saying navigation toggle. Then let's select our hamburger. So hamburger, so document.query selector, so document.query selector. Let's get our hamburger class. Then we also want our nav list. So nav list. Then you want document.query selector. Let's select our nav list. So nav list. And let's add some event listener to the hamburger. So hamburger, we want some event listener, which is a click event. Then here, let's bring our callback function. Then let's get our nav list and let's add some classes. So class list, and let's toggle the class of open. So open. Now let's go back to our browser and let's click this, and we have our nav list. When we click again, it goes back. When we click, it comes. When we click, it goes back. Now the next thing is to start with our carousel. So we have to start with our carousel. So go back to your text editor and let's go to index.html. So index.html, and below the navigation. So below the navigation, let's leave a comment of hero. For the hero, let's go to our browser and go to my website. Then look for Swiper.js. So click on Swiper.js. Now we are on their documentation. Let's click on demos. Then from demos, look for, let's say, the one with navigation. So this is the navigation one. So click on core. And here we are going to get the code for the navigation. Wait for it to load. And scroll down, and let's copy the HTML. So let's copy this, then let's close it. Let's close this also, and go back to our text editor and paste it below the hero comment. And let's remove this, Also, let's remove this for now. Then we want only one. Let's change the class here to, let's say, slider dash one. Then within this we are going to have an image. Then let's enter into our images folder and look for pick one. So pick one. Then let's copy this down maybe 4 times. So let's copy this down. Is it 4? The second one, we are going to have pick 5. So let's change this to pick 5. Then the third one is a video. So remove this. This is the third one. And let's start with our video tag. So video. Let's say video. Then within the video, we're going to have a source. So here is a self-closing the scene. So let's give it an src. Let's enter into our images folder and look for video 2. So video 2, video 2, video 2, and it is 2. So yeah, let's change the type to, let's give it a type of, let's say video slash mp4. Then the second one is going to be video 2, all right, but the webm extension. Then let's give it a type of video slash webm. Then for the video tag, let's give it muted attribute and loop. Also let's give it autoplay. Then let's save this. Then below the video, we are going to have another image which is pic 6. Then below the pic 6, we are going to have a video again. So let's copy this whole thing here and replace it with this. Then for the video, we are going to have video 3. So let's use this. So here is video 3. Then below video 3, we are going to have another image. Let's copy this. Then below the, let's have, let's say hero. This will be hero 3. So let's save this, go back to our browser, then let's close this. Now you can see that nothing is working because we haven't activated a carousel. So let's go to our text editor and let's go to not index.js, we want slider.js. But before that, let's copy this class we created here, so which is what, slider-1. Let's copy this class, go back to slider.js. Then I'm going to start with const. You can give the slider any name, but I'm going to say swiper 1. Then we say new swiper, so new swiper, and we call it. Then the first argument is the class we created. Then the second argument is an object. Here we are going to set autoplay to, not like this, autoplay to an object. So autoplay is an object. Let's set delay to, let's say 3500 milliseconds, and let's give it this disable on interaction. So interaction, and let's set it to false. Let's save this. Then below that, we are going to say loop. Let's set it to true. Then let's also have our navigations here. So navigation. Then here is simply an object. We are going to say next here, and we want it to be swiper dash next. We are going to create these classes later. So here we are going to have brief el, and we want it to be swiper dash brief. So let's save this, go back to our browser, and now we have our slider. Now let's give it some styles. So let's go to styles.css. So styles.css. So let's first select our container class. So let's select our container class. Then here below home, we are going to start with our container class. Let's give it width of so width of 100%. Then height should also be 100%. Then let's select the slide in the header. So here we're going to say header, we want the swiper dash slide, and within the swiper dash slide, let's get the image and the video. So let's copy this down and change the under one to video. Then let's give it height of 100 vh, then object fit to cover. Now let's select, so first let's go to our browser and see if everything is working all right. Okay, everything is working all right. Let's refresh this. Everything is good. So there's some kind of shifting here, but everything is good. So let's go to our text editor, and below the swiper container, we are going to start with our content. So below the swiper container, let's have our content here. So content, then below the content comment, let's start with a div with a class of content. Then here we're going to have an h1, and within this h1 we're going to say get, let's say ready for, then a line break, so br. Then below that, let's have lifetime, let's say journey. Then below the h1 we're going to have a button, we're going to have a button here, so btn, and the text should be get started. So let's save this, go back to our browser, and there should be nothing here. So here the slider, you have to refresh before it takes effect for. So now everything is working. Let me see. Yeah, everything is correct. So let's go back to our text editor. Then for the content, let's go to our styles.css. So let's first select our header class, and let's get our content. Then let's give it position of absolute and top of 50%. Then left should also be 50%. Then let's give it transform, so translate of -50%, then -50% to center it. Let's give it z index of 100. Then let's set width to, let's say 70%. Also let's give it text align of center. So let's go to our browser again, and now we have our content, but it also needs some styling. So let me see. So the content needs some styling. Let's first get our h1. So for the h1, let's get our h1, and let's give it font size of 7 rem. Then font weight should be 700, and let's give it color of white. Then margin to, so let's say margin bottom, so margin bottom, and let's give it 2 rem. So let's go back to our browser, and here we have our text. Then let's now start with the first. Let me show you what we are going to build. So here we are going to have our navigation buttons here. So let's go to our text editor. Then below the content, let's have our navigation. So let's say this is the content. So below this content, let's start with a div with a class of arrows, and let's have another secondary class of flex, so div flex. Then here let's have our div with a class of swiper. So swiper dash priv. Then let's give it div flex also. So flex. Then here we're going to have an icon which is bx.bx dash chevron. The spelling is wrong. Chevron, and we want the left. Let's also give it another class of swiper. So swiper icon. So let's save this and copy this down. Then let's change this to next. So here is next, and the left, let's change it to right. Let's save this, then go to styles.css and let's select our arrows class. So we see header, so header, and we want the arrows. Then let's give it position of absolute, and let's give it bottom of 0.5%. Then let's give it right of 0, z index of 100. Let's set background color to, so background color, let's give it our white color, so white. Then let's set height to, let's say 30 rem. Then the width should be, let's say, okay, so the width should be 30 rem rather. Then the height should be 2 rem, so here should be 2 rem. Now let's give it justify content of center, so justify content of center. Then let's go back to our browser, and we have our arrows here, but the arrows need some styling. So first let's get our icon, so header. Then we want our swiper dash icon. Let's give it font size of 4 rem, font size, so font size of 4 rem. Then let's select our next and previous button. So let's get our next, so let's start with header again. Then we want swiper dash next. Let's copy this down and change this to priv. Let's give it justify content of center. Then let's also give it background color of primary color, so our primary color. Then let's give it color of, let's say, white. Then let's give it width of 10 rem. Also let's set height to 5 rem. Then cursor should be pointer. Then let's select this, the next, and when it has a class of swiper dash button dash disable, so when it has this class, let's copy this down. Then here let's change it to previous, so priv. So when they have the class of swiper button disabled, let's give it opacity of 0.7 and cursor should be default. Then let's select the previous, and let's give it, let's say, margin right of 2 rem. So let's go back to our browser, and we have this which is not properly, so there is a mistake we are doing. Let's see if the classes are correct. We have arrows here, so these are the arrows. So let's go to our, we have arrows, and we gave it, is it height that we should have given? So it should be padding, not height. So here should be padding, so padding should be 2 rem, not height. So let's go back to our browser, and now we have our arrows which are our navigations. Alright, let's go to our text editor and write some media queries. So let's say at, so first we are going to start with 996. So at media, we want max width to be 996 pixels. Sorry, let's select our h1 in the content, so h1, and let's give it font size of 5 rem. Then let's copy this down and let's go and copy the next and previous. So this is the next and previous. Let's come and paste it below, so within the 996 media query, and let's change the value to 768. And here we are going to simply change the height and the width. So here let's remove this, and the height and the width should be 6 rem. So here should be 6 also. Then for the last media query, which is 568, let's close this. This should be 567. So 567. At 567, let's get our content, so header, and we want the content, let's give it width of 100%. Then for the h1 also, let's give it font size of 4 rem. So here we want the font size to be 4 rem. Let's save this, go back to our browser and resize this to responsive mode. Let's remove this. Then here we have our, so let's test the navigation also, it's also working. Now the next thing is to start with our about page. So let's go to our text editor, and within the index.html, below the header, we are going to start with our main, so main tag. So let's have our main tag here, so let's say main, and within the main we are going to leave a comment of about. Let's start with a section with a class of section. Let's also give it another class of about and an ID of about. Then within the section, we're going to have a row, and this row should have a secondary class of container. Then within this row, we're going to have 2 columns, so core. Then let's copy this down using Shift Alt and the down arrow key. Then the first column, we're going to have the title. Within the title, let's have an h1, and this should have a text of about s. Then below the title, we're going to have a paragraph. So let's say paragraph, and here we need lorem of 50. Then in order to wrap the text, we are going to use Alt and Z to wrap it. Then below the paragraph, we are going to need a button. So here we have our link tag, and let's give it a class of btn, and the text should be no, what am I even typing? No more. Let's save this, go back to our browser, and below that we should have our about us and the text. And here for the header, we are having this background color, so you have to remove these, and for the arrows you have to reduce the size also. So let's go back to our styles.css, and after the h1 in the content, let's select our header again. Then we need our arrows. Then let's give it width of, let's say 25 rem. Then padding should be 0.5 rem. Then let's go to our header, so you can use Ctrl F, then look for header. Then the header, let's remove this background color. Then let's close this, then scroll down, and let's go back to our browser. Now we no more have that background color here. Then the arrows also has reduced in size, so let's open this wider. Then let's go to our text editor and to our index.html. Now the next thing is the slider, so let's go to the hero section and copy this slider here, this whole div. Copy this, go to the second column and paste it here. Now let's remove some of the slides. So here we are going to remove these two. Let's remove these two here. Then the video, let's take the video slide and paste it in between the two images. So let's paste it here. Then for the first one, it should be pic 5, then the other image should be hero 3. Then for the video, let's make it 3, so 3, so here should be 3. Let's save this, go back to our browser, and now we have our, all right, it is moving, but we need to give it a different, so here we should change here to 2. It should be slider 2. It was working because it still had the slider 1. So if you go back to the browser, and nothing should work. So let's go to our slider.js and copy this whole thing down. Let's copy this whole thing down, and let's remove this loop and autoplay. And here we are going to have auto height. So auto height should be true. And for the swiper next, we are going to change the next and the previous to button. So button. So let's go to our swiper container. Then we need the button, so let's go to our hero section and let's copy these 2 buttons here. So let's copy these 2, go back to our swiper container. Within the swiper container, we need to paste it here. So let's save this. Then let's change the pref and the next to button. So button. Let's save this. Now let's go to, since we didn't change, so here should be 2. So go back to your slider.js and change the slider-2. So you have to put that class here. Also, let's change swiper 1 to 2. So let's save this and go back to our browser, and now it should work. All right. Now let's go to our styles of CSS and write some styles for the about section. So let's first start with our row. So we're going to select the about class. Let's say about, and we want the row. Let's give it display of grid, and grid template columns should be 1fr. Let's set gap to 5, so 5 rem. Then let's give it align items of center. Now let's select our swiper container. So we say our about class, and we want the swiper container. Then let's give it height of 50 rem, so 50 rem. And also let's give it width of 50 rem, so 50 rem. Now let's select our swiper wrapper. So we say about, then we want swiper, and we want the wrapper. So the swiper wrapper, you can get this class from here. This is our swiper container and the swiper wrapper. So this is the swiper wrapper. So here, sorry, not here. Let's bring this here. For the swiper wrapper, let's give it a height of 100%. So height of, let's say 100%, and let's give it the important flag. Then let's copy this down. Let's copy this down and change the wrapper to slider, not slider, slide. Also, let's see. So first, let's go to our browser and see if it works. So yeah, let's bring it here. First, we need to refresh and see. All right, it works. So yeah, now we need to give it some nice styling. So let's go to our styles.css and let's first start with our paragraph. So let's say about, then let's enter into our column. Then we want the paragraph there. Let's give margin bottom of, let's say 3 rem. Then let's now select our image and video in the about. So let's say about, then we want the column and we want our img. Let's copy this down. Let's change this to video, and here we are going to say object fit to cover. Let's give it height of 100%. Now let's select the previous and the next. So here we are going to select our about, then let's say swiper dash button, and here we want the next after, then so here should be after, and here let's also set, so here we say prev, no, we say prev here, then we want the after also. Let's give it content of an empty string, then let's select the, all right, so we need to change the class here, so let's make it next, and here should also be prev. Now let's save that, then let's go to our styles, and here we need the next and the previous, so let's copy this, and here let's bring this down again, so let's copy it down and change here to prev, then let's give it top of auto, then bottom of, let's say 0.1%, and let's give it background color of white, so background color of white. Also let's give it width of 5 frame, so 5 frame. Now let's select the next, so here we want the next, so we want the next, let's give it right of 20 pixels. Then for the previous, let's copy this down, so use shift alt and the down, and the down arrow key, then let's give the left of auto, so here we are going to say auto, then for the right let's give it 70 pixels, then let's get our icon, so in the about we need a swiper icon, so let's paste this here, we need a swiper dash icon, then here I want to give the font size, let's give it a font size of 3 rem. Let's go back, and there is nothing there because we didn't change the class in the HTML here. Let's see, we need to give this one, so the left is saying here is previous, then here is the next. So let's save this, go back to our browser, and we have the next and the previous, but since the style we are missing something here should be prev. So let's go back and see, and now we have our forward and backward buttons. Now let's write some media query, so here let's say at media, then max width, so max width let's say 996 pixels, then here we're going to select the container, so about we want the swiper container, and let's give it width of 30 rem, so 30 rem, then height should also be 35, so 35 rem. Now let's copy this down, and let's change the value to 768, then here we are going to need our, so here for the container let's give it 40 and 45, so here should be 40, here should be 45. Then we also need our row, so let's get our about, and we want the row, and let's give it grid template columns of 1 fr. Let's save this, and the last one should be 567, so 567. For 567 we need only the container here, so let's remove the row, and for the container we need 25, so 25 rem and 30 rem. So let's save this and go back to our browser, then let's resize this to responsive mode. Let's just close this, and for the responsive mode also we have this. Let's go, let me change the device to, let's say, iPhone. Let's see, all right, everything is correct. Now the next thing is to start with this section where we have an image at the left side and some text with some heading, then we have this button, then the rating, then the price. So let's go to our text editor, and so let's go to our text editor. then to our index.html, and here we are going to start with a section of service. So let's leave a comment of service. So service. All right, so we are going to start with a section. So section with a class of section. Let's also give it class of service. So service with an ID of service. Then within this section, we're going to have a row, and also let's give the row another class of container. Then within the row, let's start with an image. So here we want an image. We enter into our images folder and we want pick one. So pick one. Then below the image, you're going to have a column. So below the image, let's have a column. So a div with a class of core. And within this column, we're going to start with our title. Title. Then within the title, let's have an h1 with a text of, let's see, how to spend. So spend, then a weekend. Then below the title, we're going to start with our paragraph. So here we're going to have lorem of, let's say, 40. Then below the paragraph, we're going to have a div with a class of dflex. And let's copy this dflex down. So let's copy this down because we're going to have another one at the bottom. And within the first dflex, let's have an h2 with a text of 15 days. So 15 days tour. Then below the h2, you're going to have a div with a class of rating. So a div with a class of rating. Then here we're going to have a span. Within the span, we're going to have an icon. So we're going to have the star icon. So bx.bxs dash star. Now let's copy this span down 4 times. Let's save this. Then within the last dflex container, let's have an h3 with a text of, let's say, the price. So 799.99. So we need to bring the $sign. Then below the h3, let's have a button. So btn, and the text should be book now. So book now. Let's save this, go back to our browser, and let's open this wider. So let's open this wider, and now we have our image, then our content here. So let's go to our styles.css and start writing some styles for the service section. So first, I'm going to select our row in the service. So let's copy this down. Then within the first one, let's write service. Service. Then let's start with our section. So let's select our service. So service. Then we want the row. Now let's give a display of grid. Then grid template column should be, so here we need grid template columns. We want to repeat 2 1 fr. Then let's give it a gap of 5. So gap, let's say 5 frame. Now let's select the paragraph in the column. So service, we want the column and we want the paragraph. Let's give it margin bottom of 3 rem. Then let's select our dflex class. So service, we want d-flex. Then here we are going to set justify content to space between, and also let's give it margin bottom of 3 rem. Now let's select the rating. So here we need a section, so not, we can still use service. We need a column, we need rating. Then here we need span. Here let's give it a color of our primary color. So primary color. Then let's write just one media query. So media, say max width, and we need 768 pixels. Then here let's select our row and let's give it grid template columns of, let's say, 1 fr. So let's save this, go back to our browser, and we have this. When we resize, let's resize and see, and we should have this. All right, so the next section is this discount section. which includes a video where we can play and pause the video. Alright, so let's go back to our text editor, and below the service section, let's leave a comment of discount. So discount section. Alright, so let's start with a section. So section with a class of section. Let's also give it a class of discount. So discount. Then within this, let's have an overlay div. So overlay for the video. Then within the overlay, let's start with our video. So let's go and copy. Let's look for a place where we have video. So let's copy this. Then go back to our overlay div and paste it here. Now let's change the video. Let's change this to 0-2. Then below the overlay, we're going to have our content. So here we are going to start with a div with a class of content. Then within this, let's have an h1, and within the h1, let's say get 15% off on tour. Then let's have a line break. Then below that, let's say next. So next travel. Then below the h1, you're going to have a button. So let's say our link tag. Then let's give it a class of btn, and the text should be explore the tour. Then below the button, let's have expand, which is our control button. So we are going to say expand with a class of video control dash control. Then let's also give it a class of dflex. Then within this span, I'm going to have our icon, which is bx.bx-play. Let's save this and go to our browser. So let's go to our browser. Let's close this and close this one also. And now we have our video, then our content. So now let's go to our, so first the video, let's remove this. Let's remove this attribute here. Let's remove this attribute. And let's give it a class of video. Then let's go to styles.css and write some styles for the discount section. So let's copy this down maybe 2 times or 3 times. Then change this to discount. Then now let's select our discount class. So discount. Then here we are going to give it position of relative. Then height should be 60 rem. Now let's select the overlay in the discount. So we say discount, we want the overlay. So overlay. And let's give it position of relative. Then height should be 100%. So 100%. Then let's select the overlay, the after. So let's see this. We want the after. Let's remove this column. Then here we're going to give it content to empty. Let's give it top 0. Then left should also be 0. Let's set width to 100%. Then height to 100%. And let's give it position of absolute. Then background color should be our text color, text 1. And let's give it opacity of 0.5. So opacity of 0.5. Let's save this. And now let's get the video. So the discount, we want the discount, we want the video. And let's give it object fit of cover. Now let's go to our browser and we have the video. So now let's target the content. So let's say discount. So discount. We want the content. And here let's give it position of absolute. Top should be, so top should be, let's say 52%, and left should be 50%. Let's give it transform translate of negative 50%, negative 50%. Now let's give it a width of 80%. So width of 80%. Then let's give it text align of center. Now let's select the h1 in the content. So here we are going to say h1, and here we want font size to be 5 rem, then color should be our white color, then let's set margin bottom to, let's say, 3 rem. Now let's get a span in the content, so let's copy this down here, and we want the span, and the span, let's give it just 5 content of center. Also let's give it border of 2 pixels, so let's give it border of 2 pixels solid, then we want white color. Let's also give it border radius of 50%, so border radius of 50%, then let's set color to white. Also let's give it font size of, let's say, 4 rem, then let's give it a width of 7 rem, then height should also be 7 rem, so 7 rem, and let's also set margin to 0 auto, then cursor should be pointer. Also let's give it margin top of 3 rem. Let's go to our browser, and now we have our button, then the text and the button here. Now let's write some media query. So here we say at media, then here we want max width, so max width should be 567 pixels, and here let's select our discount. Let's give it a height of 50 rem, then let's select the content in the discount. So we want the content here, we are going to give it top of 50, so top of 50%, then width should be 100%. Now let's select the h1 in the content, so we want the h1, so here we want the h1. Let's give it font size of, let's say, 3.5 rem, then let's also copy this. We want the button in the h1, so .btn. Let's give it padding of 1 rem. We also want the span in the, so we want the span. Let's also give it font size of 3 rem, so 3, then let's give it width of 5 rem, and height should be 5 rem. Let's save this, go back to our browser, let's resize this to the responsive mode, and for the video, let's see, okay, something is very bad here. Let's go back. All right, so the mistake we are doing here is, for the discount we wanted a span here, so inside the content, so we should say span rather, not just discount.content, not that. So let's go back to our browser, and I did some small debugging. So here now we have our title, then we have the button here, we have the play button also. Now let's go to our index.js and write some code for the discount media. So here we are going to say discount, so discount media, then you are going to select the video, so video, then we say document dot query selector. We want the class, let's say the class which, so the class is video. Let's copy this, go back here, and here we want video. Let's also copy this down, and here let me see, we need a button also, so here we need a button, and here we are going to select the video control, which is here, video control. So let's copy this class here, then go back here and paste it here. Now let's add an event listener to the button, so we want a click event. When we click, we want you to call this function play pause video. Now let's create this function below here, so function, and here we're going to say play pause video, then here let's say if video dot post. So post, we want button dot inner html should be equal to this icon here. So here we want first let's go and copy the icon from the index.html. Let's just tweak some classes there. So here we want this. So here should be single. So here let's do like this, should be single. And here we want pause. So here should be pause. Then we are going to play the video. So here we are going to say video dot play. So play, then we call it else. Let's copy this thing down again. So let's copy this and paste it here. Then let's change this to play. So play. Then here we are going to pause. So pause. Alright, let's go to our browser and see if it works. So we play and it is working. And we can pause. We play, we can pause. Now the next section is to code this strip section, which is this strip section, where we have this nice slider here. Alright, so let's go to our text editor, and below the section let's have a comment here, strip. Alright, so let's start with a section with a class of section. So section, then let's also give it a class of strip. Then let's also give it an ID of strips. Alright, now we need a title, so let's start with our title class. Then within the title div, let's have an h1, and within this h1 let's say plan your, then we need a line break here, br. Then below that let's have strip with us. Then below the h1 let's have a paragraph. So here we're going to have lorem of, let's say 20. Okay, 20 is okay. Now below the title, so below the title let's have a div with a class of row, and let's also give it a class of container. Then within this container we're going to have our slider. So let's go and look for one of our slider and copy that. So let's look for the ending div. So let's copy this, go and paste it within the row. Then let's remove the video. We don't need the video here, so let's remove this. And here let's see, we are going to need a couple of these, so let's copy this down like this. Then change this here to vet, so vet1. Then let's copy this image and paste it here, and change the 1 to 2. Let's paste it here also, change this to 3, paste it here, change this to 4, and let's also paste it here and change this to 5. Then let's do for 6 and 7. So here should be 6, then we want 7. Now let's also change the slider to slider 3. Then below, for the custom buttons, here we are going to change this to our own class, which is custom dash next. Also we need custom, so here should be custom dash brief. Then below the custom dash brief, let's have our pagination, which is a div with a class of custom dash pagination nation. Let's also give it div flex, so flex, and that's an empty div. Then below our row, let's have a button. So here we are going to have a div with a class of explore. Then within this div, let's have a button. So btn, let's give it explore. So let's say explore all. Let's save this, go to our browser. So let's go to our browser and we have these images here. So now nothing is working now, so let's go to our slider and write some code for the slider. So let's copy this down. Let's copy this down and change the 2 to 3 to 3. Auto height, we need auto height. For the navigation, let's write our custom class. So here we want our custom class, custom. So we said custom. So the spelling is from custom dash next and previous. Then we also need our pagination also. So pagination. Then here we said el. Then let's go and copy the class for our pagination. Here we said, oh, not like this, it should be like this. So it should be like this rather. So let's copy the class for the pagination. So for the pagination, let's put the class here, and after the auto height, let's have an effect. I want this effect to be cover flow. So cover flow. Then below that, let's have grab. So grab cursor. So let's say cursor, and we want it to be true. Then below that, let's have loop to true. Then after that, let's have center. So center, let's say centered. So it is centered. Slides, let's set it to true. And below that, let's say slides per view to auto. So slides per view, let's set it to auto. Then below that, let's have our cover flow effect. So cover flow effect. It should be an object, and within this object we are going to have rotate of 40. We also want stretch. So stretch should be, let's say 0. Let's also set depth to 100. Then modifier. So modifier, let's say 1. Then let's say slide shadow. So we want a shadow. So shadows, let's say true. Let's save this and go back to, so let's check if the naming is correct. Effect, we want effect grab cursor, centered slides, then slides per view, cover flow effect, rotate, stretch, depth, modifier. So let's see slide shadows, navigation. Now let's go back to our, let's see, okay, it is working. Now it's left with some styles. So let's go to styles.css. So for styles.css, I'm going to select, so here let's leave a comment of trip. So trip. Then here let's first select our trips. So trip. Then let's give it overflow of hidden. Now let's select the title in the trip. So trip. So not times. We want trip and we want the title. Let's give it text align of center. Then margin bottom of 7 rem. Now let's go to the title. We want the h1 in the title. So h1. Then let's give it font size of, let's say 5 rem. Then margin should be 2 rem. Now let's select the paragraph. So the paragraph, for the paragraph, let's give it width of 50%. Then margin should be 0 auto. Now let's get our row in the trip. So trip, and we want our row. And let's give it width of, let's say 95 VW. and let's give position of relative. Now let's get the container, the swiper container in the trip. So we say trip and we want the swiper container. Let's give it width of 100%, so 100%, and height should be 100%. Now let's select the slide. So for the slide, so trip, then we want swiper slide, and here we're going to give it some background position. So background position is not working, so background dash position, then center. Let's also give it background size. So background size, let's say cover, not center, cover. Then let's give it width of, let's say 300 pixels. Let's give it height of, let's say 500 pixels. Then for the image in the slide, let's get the image in the slide. So we want the image, and let's give it display of block, then width of 100%. Now let's go back to our browser, and what is happening? Let's refresh this. All right, now we have it. Okay, the cursor of grab, it seems the spelling is wrong, but I'm not seeing anything like that. But you can go to their website. So you go to, this is Swiper.js, and you want the demo. Then you can scroll down. Let's scroll down, and I've forgotten the name of the one we are using. Let's scroll down, and here it's still loading. Seems it's not this one. It's not this one also. It's not this one. Let's see. Not this one. Where is it? Is it the cube? Not the cube. Yes, it's this one. So you click on core and wait for it to load. We are going to copy the JavaScript because I don't know why the cursor grab bar is not working. So let's scroll down, and look for its JavaScript. So this is the JavaScript. So let's copy this. Let's copy this, and go to our slider, and let's paste it here like this. So now let's save this, go back to, so let's close this, go back to our, let's refresh. All right, now we need to modify the this thing. So here we want auto height, then effect, the cursor grab, and let's change here to 40, 100, 1 through. Yeah, now let's go back and see if everything works correctly. So now we have this, and all loop, let's set loop to true also. So here we want loop should be true. All right, now we have this. So let's go to our styles.css, and let's write some more styles for the custom nest and previous. So let's go and copy that class. We want this custom nest and previous. So we want this custom nest and previous. So let's paste it here again. Sorry, let's bring the, so here we want the nest. Then let's give it some sign. So position absolute, then top should be, so top should be 50%. Then transform, so let's say translate y, let's say negative 50%. Also let's set background color to primary color. So background color should be our var primary color. Then let's give it color of white. Also let's give it font size of 2.5 rem, then border radius of 50%. Now let's give it height of, let's say 4 rem, then width of 4 rem. Also justify content of center, then cursor of pointer. Then now let's select the next, custom next, and let's give it right of negative 60 pixels. Then let's copy this down and let's change the next to priv. So priv, and let's change this right to left. Now let's get the swiper pagination bullet. So swiper, so let's say swiper pagination bullet. Let me see if that's the class I gave to it. Not that. Swiper, so swiper dash pagi, so pagination dash bullet, and let's give it width of 30 pixels, then height of 7 pixels, so 7 pixels, and let's give it border radius of 5 pixels. Now when the bullet is active, when it has a class of active, so dash active, and we want to give it background color of our primary color, so over our primary color. Then the bullet, let's see the bullet, so not last child, and let's give it margin right of 10 pixels. Let's go and check if everything is working. All right, now we have the bullet, but it's not in the center. All right, so let's go and see for the bullet. Okay, we need to first select our custom pagination class. So here, let's put it here, custom pagination class, and let's give position of absolute, then bottom should be negative 10%, and let's give it left of 50%, then translate x of negative 50%. Okay, now we should have it in the center. Where is it? Now it is missing. No problem. What we are doing wrong here. But before that, let's get our explore button. So trip, and we want the explore. Let's give it test align of center, then margin top should be 8 rem. Let's go back and see. All right, we have that one nicely placed, but the button from the, let me see, let's put it in a row. So where is the row? Let's put it here. Let's put it in a row and see. Okay, now we have it nicely placed. So when it is in the row, so we took it from the row and now it works. All right, now everything works. Let's see. All right, so now the next thing is to write some media query. So let's go to our styles.css and let's start writing some media query. So here you say at media, then max, so max with 1200 pixels, so 1200 pixels, and let's first get our custom and previous. So these are custom and previous, then let's put them here, and we are only going to need the top and the transform. So let's remove all this, and also let's move the absolute. Then for the top, let's give it negative, so negative 15%. Then for the translate, let's give it 0. Now let's also select the individual nest. So here we need the nest. Let's give it right of 10 pixels. Then for the previous, let's copy this down. Then let's change this to brief. So brief. Then for the left, let's set left to auto. Then for the right, let's give it 70 pixels. Now let's copy this for 567, paste it here, change this to 567. So 567. Then here let's have our trip. Then we want the title, paragraph, let's give width of 90%. Then for the slide, the swiper slide, let's reduce the height of swiper, so swiper slide, let's give it a height of 40, so 400 pixels. Now let's go to our browser and resize this to mobile view, and let's see. Now we have our slide. We can also go this way. All right, everything is working. So the next thing is to start with this more section where we have this huge image here, then some grid columns here with some button. So let's go to our text editor, and below the trip section, let's have our more section. All right, so let's start with a section with a class of section. So section with a class of section. Let's also give it another class of more. Then within this, let's have a div with a class of row and a secondary class of container. So container. Then within the container, I'm going to have two columns. So first column, let's copy this down. So within the first one, let's start with our title. So title. And within the title, let's have our H1. This H1 should say more places for. So we need a line break. Then here we should say for your next travel. Then below the title, not below, so below the H1, not some mistake is here. So below the H1, let's have a paragraph. Then here, let's say lorem of, let's say 20. I don't know if 20 is correct. 20 and 20 is all right. Then below the title, let's have a div with a class of tools. Then within this, we're going to have two boxes. So this is the first box, and within this, let's have an image. Let's enter into our images folder and pick 2. So pick 2. Then below this image, we are going to have an H3. So let's say visit to Bali. So Bali. Then below the H3, let's have an H4, and let's put a price there. Let's say 6,000. Then let's copy this box down. So let's copy this box down, and let's change the image to, let's say 3. Then the text should be visit to Russia. And let's change the price to 8,000. Then below the tools, we are going to have a button. So below these tools, we are going to have a button. So here we need a btn, and for this btn, we are going to give it a text of explore more tools now. Then in the second column, let's have an image. So here we need our image. Then here we enter into our images, and let's pick 4. Let's save this and go back to our browser And before that, it seems this text is too big, so let's go to our styles.css, and here let's get our h1 in the title. H1, let's give it font size of 4M. Let's see, 4M will do the trick. So 4M. So let's go back and see if it's okay. Now it's okay. So let's open this wider, and here we have our images. All right, let's go to our styles.css and start writing some styles for it. So yeah, let's see. Yes, we need more. So yeah, let's give it more. Then below, let's select our more. Then here we want the title. Let's give it margin bottom of 5 rem. Now let's select the paragraph in the title. So more, we need the title and we need a paragraph also. Margin bottom, let's give margin bottom of, let's say 2 rem. Now let's select the row in more. So more, we want the row. Then let's give it display of grid, then grid template columns of repeat 2, and we want 1 fr. Then let's give it gap of 5 rem. Now let's get the tools. So more, I want a row and these tools. So we need these tools. This class here, we want this class here. So let's paste it here, and let's give it display of grid. We want grid template columns to be, let's say, the same repeat 2, 1 fr. So here below that, let's give it a gap of 2 rem. Then let's give margin bottom of 9 rem. So 9 rem. Now let's get a button. So we say more, then core, and we want the btn, and let's give it display of block, then text align of center. Now let's go to our browser and see if things are going on well. Yeah, things are going on well, but let's give some nice styling to the text and the price here. So let's go to our styles.css again, and now let's select our h3. So we say more, we need the tools and we need h3. Let's give margin of, let's say 1 rem, then 0. Also let's get the image. So more, we want the image, and let's give it object fit of cover. Then let's write one line of media query here. Media, we want max width to be 768 pixels. Then let's give it, so let's get our more row, and let's set grid template columns to 1 fr. So 1 fr. Now let's go to our browser and let's resize this to mobile view and see. Now we have this nicely aligned. So the next thing is to start with this newsletter section. So this newsletter section, then we start with our content and footer. All right, so the newsletter section, let's go to our text editor. Then below this more section, let's have comment of, let's say, newsletter. So let's start with a section with a class of section. So section with a class of section, and let's also give it another class of newsletter. So newsletter. Then within this, let's have a row, and let's also give it a class of container, or that container. Then within this row, let's have a column, so call, and below that, let's have a form also. So form with a class of form. So in the first column, so in a column, let's have an h2, and here let's say subscribe to our newsletter. Then for under the h2, let's have a paragraph. Let's give it lorem of, let's say, 15. Then let's go to the form. Within the form, let's have a div, and within this div, let's have an input, and it should be email. Then let's give it a placeholder. Let's remove these two. Let's give it a placeholder of email. Then below the input, let's have a button. So button, and the text should be submit. So submit. Now let's save this and go to our browser. Let's close this and let's see. Now we have our newsletter section, but it needs some time. So let's go to our VS Code or text editor and go to your styles.css. So styles.css, and here let's copy this down. Then here let's say news, then letter. Now let's select our newsletter class. So newsletter. Then let's give it background color of our text 1. Then let's set height to 30 rem. So height should be 30 rem. 30 rem. Then let's get a row in the newsletter. So newsletter, and we want the row. Now for the row, let's give it display of grid, then grid template columns of 1fr, 1fr. Let's give it align items of center. Then gap should be 5 rem. Also let's give it height of 100%. Now let's select the H2 and the paragraph. So newsletter, say newsletter. What am I even typing? Newsletter. We want the call and the H2. So let's copy this down and change this to paragraph. Then let's give it color of white. Now let's select the H2, and for the H2, let's give it margin bottom. So margin bottom of, let's say 2 rem. Then let's give it font size of 3 rem. Now let's go back to our browser and let's see. All right, everything is working. So now let's select the div in the form. So we want the form. So first let's get our newsletter, and we want the form, then a div in it. Let's give position of relative. Then let's give it width of 90%. Also let's give it margin of 0 auto. Now let's get the input in the form. So the input, here we want the input. Then let's give it width of 100%. Also let's give it outline of none, then border of none. Then let's give it padding of 1.5 rem, then 0. Let's also set text indent to, let's say 1 rem. Then font size should be 1.7 rem. Let's set border radius to 5 pixels. Now let's get our button. So for the button, we need the button in the form. So for the button, let's paste it here. We want the button. Let's copy this thing down like this. Let's copy this outline and border. Now for the button, let's give it position of absolute. Then let's give it top of 50%. Then let's give it translate y of -50%. And let's give it right of 1 rem. Then let's also give it a background color of, so background color of our text color, so text 1. Then let's give it color of white. Let's also give it padding of 0.8 rem, then 3 rem. And let's give it font size of 1.7 rem and font weight of, let's say 500. Then let me see, border radius, let's set it to 5 pixels. Now let's go to our browser and see. All right, everything is correct. Now let's write some media query. So here we say at media, and we want max width to be 768 pixels. Then let's get our news letter, and we want the row. Let's give it grid template columns of 1FR, 1FR, and let's get a div in the form. So let's say newsletter, newsletter. We want the form and we want a div in it. Let's give a width of 100%. Now for 567, so let's copy this down and let's change the value to 567. So we want 567, 567, and here we only need a newsletter. So let's remove this and let's remove the row also. Let's move this and give it a height of, let's see, 40 rem. Then let's also give it padding bottom of, let's say, 10 rem. Now let's save this and go back to our browser, resize this, and let's see. So let's close this, and here we have our newsletter, which is nicely aligned. Now the next thing is to start with the contact section, then our footer. So the contact section, let's go to our text editor and let's go to index.html, and below the newsletter section, let's have our contact. Now let's start with a section with a class of section. Then let's also add a class of contact, then an ID of contact. Then within this, let's have our title, and within the title, let's have an H1 with a text of contact as. So contact as. Then below the H1, let's have a paragraph with a text of, let's say, lorem of 20. Then below that, below the title, we're going to have a div with a class of location in. So location. Then let's also give it another class of container. Now let's go to our browser and let's search for, let's say, the map. So let's say our location. So this is Google Map. Then here I'm going to input a place I would like to visit one day in the future. Let's say Manchester. This is a place I've always been dreaming of. So here I'm going to copy. So we click on this share button here, share. Then click on embed a map and copy this HTML. Then close this. Now go to your text editor and paste it here. Now let's go to our browser and let's open this wider and see our map. Now we have our title and our paragraph, then we have our map here. So now let's go to styles.css and write some styles for the map. So first we're going to select our title. So let's copy this down. Then let's write, let's say, contact here. Then below that, let's have our contact. Then we want title. Then for the title, let's give it text align of. So text align of center. Also, let's give it margin bottom of 5 rem. Now let's get the paragraph in the title. So we need a paragraph in the title. So let's paste it here. We want a paragraph, and let's give it width of 60%. Also, let's give it margin of 2 rem, then auto and 0. This means 2 rems at the top, then left and right should be auto, then bottom should be 0. Now let's get our location div. So location, and let's give it height of, let's say, 500 pixels. Now let's select the iframe in the location. So location, we want the iframe. Let's give it width and height of 100%. So 100%. Then width should also be 100%. Now let's go to our browser and see. Okay, now it is nice. Now let's write some media query at media, and we want max width to be, let's say, 567 pixels. Then for this, I'm going to select our paragraph again. So let's grab this and paste it here. Let's paste it here. Then let's change the width to 90% and let's remove this. Now let's get our location again. So location, and let's give it a height of, let's say, 350 pixels. Now let's save this and go back to our browser. Then let's resize this to mobile view and see. Now for mobile view, okay, it is nice. Now let's go to the next section, which is the footer. So let's go to our text editor and go to your index.html. Then below the main element, let's have our footer. So footer. Alright, so let's start with our footer tag. So footer, let's also give it a class of footer. Then within this, we are going to have a row and also our container class. So within this container, I'm going to have 4 columns of call, and let's see, 3 of them will be similar. So let's write the code for the first one and copy it down 2 more times. So we are going to have an H3, and here let's say company, and below the H3 let's have our links, and this is going to have, let's say, contact us. Let's copy this down 4 times. Let's change this to, maybe let's say, executive. So executive, then let's just copy this one. Let's copy this and paste it here. Let's paste it here. Then let's copy this column down 2 times. Then here let's say learning, so learning center, so learning. Then the third one should be, let's say, here should be partner with us. Then the last column, we're going to have our images there. So for the last column, let's have our images here. We're going to start with our img. Let's enter into our images folder and look for pick one. Let's copy this down and let's change this to 2. Then we want 3. We also want 4. Let's remove the last image. Now let's save this and go to our browser. So if you go to our browser, and now we have these large images with the links. Alright, so let's go to our styles.css and let's start writing some styles for the footer. So here we are going to say footer, but before that, let's copy this down. Then let's say footer. Now let's select our footer class. Then let's give it background color of our text 1. So text 1. Then now let's select the row in the footer. So footer, we want the row, and let's give it display of grid. Then grid template columns of repeat, let's say for 1 fr. Now let's give it a gap of 7, so gap of 7 rem, then 3 rem. Now let's select the last child in the footer. So the last child, the row, so we want the row and we want the last child. Let's give it display of grid, and grid template columns. So grid template columns, we want repeat, and here we want 2, then min max. Let's give it 10, so rem, then here let's say 1 fr, and let's give it a gap of 2 rem. Now let's select the image in the last footer, in the last column, not last footer, so last column. Here let's give it height of 10, so 10 rem. Then for the columns, so footer, and we want the row, we want the column For this, let's give them display of flex, and flex direction should be column. Then let's select the h3 in the column. So let's get our h3 in the column. So we want this h3, and let's give it color. So color of white. Then let's also give it margin bottom of 2 rem. So 2 rem. Then let's get our links in the columns. So links, and here we are going to give them display inline block, then color should be white, so var white. Also, let's give them font size of 1.5 rem, then margin bottom of, let's say, 0.5 rem. Now let's write some media query for the footer. So let's say at media, then we want max width to be 768 pixels, and here let's get our footer row. So we want the row, let's give it row gap of 7 rem. Then let's also give grid template columns of repeat. Here we want 2, then 1 fr. Now let's copy this down, then let's change the value to 567. So 567, and here we want gap to be, let's say, 4 rem, then 0. So 4 rem then 0. And for the grid template columns, let's have 1 fr. Let's save this, go to our browser, and now we have this, but there is some issue. Let's go and fix that. Let's say the row. So for the row, let me see, for the row we have padding. It shouldn't be gap, so it should be padding, rather. Let's go back and see, and now it is nice. So here there's some mistake here for the links. So let's go back. Now let me copy this and replace this with this, then let me replace you2 with this. Now let's go back and see. All right, now everything is correct. So let's resize this and see if we have everything in order. Okay, everything is in order. Now the next thing is to add our preloader. So this, when we refresh the page, so let me refresh this page, this preloader. So first, let's go back to our text editor, and we should have that at the beginning. So after the body tag, so here let's have our preloader. All right, so let's start with a div with a class of loader. So div with a class of loader, and within this we are going to have an image, and let's enter into our images folder and look for preloader. Yes, now let's go to our browser and see if this is actually working. So this is a preloader. We need to give it some styles. So let's go to styles.css, and below the footer here we are going to have a comment of, let's say, preloader. So preloader. Then let's select our loader class. So loader, and let's give it position of fixed, then width of 100 VW, then height of 100 VH. Let's give it display of flex, then let's also give it align items of center, then justify content of center. Then let's give it z index of 9999999. Also let's give it background color of white, so background color of var white. Now let's select the image in the loader. So let's copy this and paste it down here, and here we want the image in it, img. Then let's give it width and height, so width of 20 rem and height of 20 rem. Now let's go back to our browser, and now we have this preloader. Now let's write some JavaScript to remove this after the page has loaded. So go to your index.js, and here let's leave a comment of preloader. Then let's first select the loader. So equals, then let's say document dot query selector. Let's get our loader class. Then here let's add an event listener to the window. So window add event listener. Here we don't want click, we want load. So the load event, and we are going to call this callback function. Then within this, let's use set timeout, because if you don't use set timeout, the page will load very fast and you wouldn't see the loader, or you might see it within some few seconds. But let's add set timeout in order to see the loader for 2 seconds. So here they are going to have a function, and let's put the time here, which is 2000 for 2 seconds. And let's say loader, so loader dot style dot display should be equal to none. So after the page has fully loaded, we wait for 2 seconds and we set the loader to display none. Then we can have access to our website. So let's go back and see. Now let's refresh and see. Okay, we have our loader, and after 2 seconds we get it to disappear. Alright, now the next thing will be to add this fix nav and also our scroll event. So let's go to our index.js, and here let's leave a comment of, let's say fix, so nav. Then let's get our navigation. So navigation, and we want document dot query selector. So let's select our navigation class. So navigation, and let's get our header also. So const header should be equal to document dot query selector. So query selector, we want our header. Now let's add an event listener to the window. So window dot, so add event listener, and here we want a scroll event. Scroll, then here we are going to call this callback function, and here let's get the scroll height. So scroll, then height should be equal to window dot, then we want the page y offset. Then if scroll height is greater than 200, so that's the height, let's give the navigation class list, let's add the class of fix. Then for the header, so header dot style dot z index, let's give it 1000. Else, so else let's remove this class. Let's remove this class. So we say remove, and if you are wondering where this class is, if you go to your styles of CSS and search for fix, this, when navigation has a class of fix, then we give it position of fix, and background color should be test1. Now let's go to our browser and see if it works. So let's go, and now it works. So now the next thing is to add our scroll. So let's go to our index.js, and let's see scroll. Then here we are going to get our links. We use document dot query selector or to get all our links. So dot query selector, or we want all, and here we want our link. So nav dash link. Then since this will return a node list, let's change it to an array, or we can simply do it this way. Put it like this, and let's spread it out, and this will return an array. So here now we can say links dot map. So links dot map, and here we want to link the single link. So we want to add an event listener to these links. So whenever we click, we want a click event. So whenever we click, when we click, we want it to prevent default. So here let's put our event here. So event dot prevent default. Then the next thing is to get the ID from these links. So we want the ID should be equal to e dot current target. Let's check the classes for target dot get attribute. We don't need the ID. The attribute there is href. Then let's slice it. So slice by 1 to remove that found here. Then let's get the element. So el should be equal to document dot get element by id, and we pass in the id. So here let's get the nav height. So nav height is equal to navigation. So navigation dot get bounding client rec, and we want the height. So we want the height, and let's get our fix class also. So when navigation has a class, so class list dot contains so fix, this will return a boolean. So let's also get our position. So position, then here we see element, no, it should be equal to el dot offset, let's say top, offset top minus the nav height. Then window dot scroll to, yes, no, not screen to, scroll to. Then here we are going to pass in an object, and we are going to say left should be 0. Then top should be position. Then below that, let's remove the class of open from the nav list. So nav list dot class list dot remove, and we want to remove the class of open. Let's save this and go back to our browser and see if everything works. Let's go to trip, to service, about, home, to contact, trip, about. All right, everything is working. Now the next thing is to add this nice slide in effect, these animations. I'm going to use scroll review. So we need to go to our index.js, and here let's leave a comment of, so here let's leave a comment of scroll review. So review, then first let's start with const scroll, then it should be equal to, we say scroll review. So review, make sure you check the classes for, then scroll review, let's say distance. So distance should be 100 pixels. Then let's get duration, we want 2500 milliseconds, and reset, so let's give it true. Now let's get a scroll again, scroll dot review, and here we are going to pass in our parameters. So first let's go to our hero section. We want to have that scroll review for so this is the hero content. We want it for the h1 and also for the button. So let's go to index.js here, and let's select our content. We want h1, also we need it for our content and the btn in it. Then comma, we pass in an object, and here we want origin to be top, so it should come from the top, and interval should be 100. Let's save this. Then the next one, let's say scroll dot review, and we want it for the about, and we want the column, we want the h1. Also we want, so let's copy this and paste it here. We want the paragraph, then also we want the button, so btn, then the next is an object. Let's say origin should be left, we want it from the left, and let's give it interval of 150. Let's go to our browser and see if it is working. So this is the about. All right, if you go to the home, all right, about, okay, it is working. Now let's do it for the service, and so service, so scroll dot review, and we want it for our service, so service image, service, we want the image. Also we want it for the contact, then we want the title, and here let's pass in our object. We want origin to be top, then let's copy this down, and here we want it for service, then a column, so core. Also we want it for trip, so trip, and we want the row, so row. Then here we want the origin should be from bottom. Then the last one is scroll dot review, and here we want it for trip, and we want the title. Also we want it for more, we want a core, first child, so child. Also we want it for the news, so newsletter, and we want the core. Then here we pass in our object, we say origin to be left. Let me see, trip we want title, more we want the core, but we want the first child. Then newsletter we also want the core, then origin should be left. Let's go to our browser, so this is our browser. Let's go to about. All right, it is working. Then for the location, it didn't work for the location. Let me see the about also, the image here, it seems. So let's go to here. For the about, we want about, okay, since service we want the image. Then for the right, where is the right? We don't have right here. Okay, there is still one to go. Let's copy this up, and here we are going to change it to about core, and we want the last child, so core, we want the last child. Then we also want our contact, so contact, and we want the location, so location. We also want more, so more, and we want core by the last child, so last child. Then we also want newsletter, so newsletter, and here we want the form. Then the origin, we want it from the right, so origin should be from the right. Let's move this interval, let's save this. So we want the about core, so this is the about. Let's go to about, where is about? So this is about, this is the first column, and we want the last, so this is the last column. That's what we've written here. We want the last column. For the contact, we want the location, and for the motto, we want the last column, and for the newsletter, we want the form, and we want the origin should be from the right. So let's go to our browser and let's scroll and see. All right, okay, for the trip, then for this, and for the newsletter also. Okay, so now let's go to responsive mode and see if everything works. So let's click this and click this. It takes us to the exact section. Let's scroll. All right, all right, everything is working. Okay, since this is the end of the tutorial, so guys, if you like this content, make sure you subscribe to my channel. You can go to my website, and from this section you can click on subscribe to subscribe to my channel, or you can go to my YouTube web page. So you go to YouTube. So YouTube, yeah, you can search for, so let's wait for it to load, and you search for Codevo. So Codevo, then from here you can click on, the PC is running slow because of the things I'm running on it. So you click on this, then click on subscribe from here. So please make sure you subscribe to my channel so that I can reach 10,000 subscribers. Let me off this. Can reach 10,000 subscribers very fast.